Hey, Dr. Ray here, founder of the Learning Liaisons, and welcome. Welcome to our Wednesday evening math sessions featuring our math specialist and your math specialist, Amy Sink. In the next hour, Amy has put together a sample set of approximately 10 practice questions that run the gamut from kindergarten levels all the way through 12th grade high school math. Now, I know you are attending here, watching this, and you're like, well, I'm doing elementary in Texas, or I'm doing elementary in Praxis, or I'm doing high school math in Florida, or middle school math in Texas. And what's going on here, right? So we're doing these sessions to help you guys out and provide you with different ways to look at problems and to build that confidence. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, one of our major objectives is to clear up the testing confusion, give you the support you deserve in order to nail your exam and be done with it. So our focus is on math. Now, are we going to be just focusing on high school math the whole hour or elementary? No. We've got a mixture here. Now, Amy's going to go through a bunch of problems. You're going to have the opportunity to download those as a PDF. So when Amy starts, just pay attention to the screen. We're going to have a message there for you so you can download the PDF in case we don't get to all the problems or want to practice on your own. She's going to do her best to go across all different grade levels. If you have a question, you feel free to ask Amy your question as well. We're teachers here too, so we can multitask. Our job is to make sure that we give you what you need to be successful. But if you're like, dang it, I didn't have any questions this week, don't worry. We'll be here next Wednesday night as well. So bring those questions with you if you want, and you could ask Amy away. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, we pride ourselves in providing you guys the support you need to pass your exam. So whether you're our Florida teachers here with our FTCE exams, our national exam Praxis peeps, big shout out to you guys out there too, and especially our newcomers to the Learning Liaisons brand, TExES Prep. So whether you're elementary, middle school, and high school, we've got your back. So sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, get ready to learn some math, and stay tuned for the end because I'm gonna jump back on to close this out, and I got a special surprise for you guys who really want to get the real deal prep and get everything you need to be successful and practice, clear up that confusion, and pass your certification exam on the next attempt. So, welcome to the Learning Liaisons community. Always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. So without further ado, let's turn it over to the reason why you're here, Amy. You with us, Amy? Let's get going.
Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday Night Math Wednesday. That didn't even make sense, but that's okay. I'm so excited that you guys are all here. As always, we're always here on Wednesdays from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. For those of you who have been with us for a while, we did move that time from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We backed it up an hour, and that just works better for my schedule with a newborn at home, and hopefully it works better for you as well. So I'm so glad that you're here. As Dr. A said, we have about 10 problems, give or take, and we will do our best to get through all of them. Before we get started, if you could drop in the comments a couple of things: where you're from, what test you're prepping for, and are you rooting for a specific team for March Madness? The bracket has been wild. I don't really keep up with basketball, but I know that there have been some crazy upsets. So where are you from? What test are you prepping for? And is there a specific team that you're hoping wins the March Madness bracket? I'm from Central Florida. I am a K through 2 math coach for those of you who don't know me. And I don't have a team that I want to win, but I'm looking forward to getting to know you. The reason I ask for the test that you're prepping for is because it does help me guide our conversation tonight. The problems are set in stone. However, when I know where you're from, it helps me guide my rabbit trail conversations. That said, let's get started. As I'm solving problems, don't hesitate to ask me questions. I'm more than happy to read the comments and answer questions as we're going. And if there is a specific skill that you want to see in these problems moving forward on future Math Wednesdays, let me know. Like if you're studying, you're like, I really need help with geometry, or I really need help with linear functions, or whatever it is, please, please, please don't hesitate to let me know. It helps me form the problems that we're going to do in the future. Oh, you're from Tampa. My aunt lives in Tampa. Welcome. GK Math tomorrow. Good luck. You've got this. All right. Problem number 1. This is a calculus problem. This is specifically for my 6 through 12, 7 through 12 math people. We are starting out of the gate right away. So I promise we'll do problems for GK, Praxis Core, elementary, but we are going to start out of the gate with a calculus problem. So the position of a particle can be defined as x of t equals 0.25 t cubed plus 4t. Find the average velocity of the particle between 2 and 4 seconds. Hey, Chris, you're also taking your GK math. Awesome. Like I said, this is totally calculus. However, I am going to guide the conversation for everybody. So we see that we have a function right here, and this is a cubic function. Now, a cubic function looks like this. Not important for this problem. However, important for those of you who have to know functions and all of that. There's our cubic function. It said find the average velocity. What do we know about average velocity? We know that we're trying to find slope. We're trying to find the average rate of change. So this means that we are finding the slope or the average rate of change between 2 and 4 seconds. That said, what is our velocity function? Because this is the position function, not the velocity function. Well, we know that x of t is position. And that said, if we take the derivative of the position function, we get the velocity function. And if we take the second derivative of the position function, we get the acceleration function, acceleration. If you don't know how to find derivatives, basic derivatives, you don't have to know how to find crazy derivatives. But if you don't know how to find basic derivatives and you are taking that 6 through 12 assessment, I highly encourage you to either join our boot camp or watch some Khan Academy videos, because you got to know how to take derivative to be successful on that calculus portion. That calculus portion in the state of Florida is only about 5% of your exam. So maybe 12, I can't remember. It's either, I think it's 5. So please don't fret if this makes no sense to you. All right, so let's take the derivative of this function. We're going to use the power rule. So I'm going to drop my exponent and then subtract 1. So I'm going to do 3 times 0.25 t squared, because I did 3 minus 2, plus this imaginary 1 gets dropped in front, 1 times 4, t minus, like 1 minus 1 is 0, so we don't have a t. So the velocity function is 3 times 0.25 is 0.75 t squared plus 4. What do I do with that? Now I can plug in 2 and 4 and find the slope between that, because average velocity between those 2 points, they're asking you to find the slope or the average rate of change between that 2 and that 4. Well, what is the slope function? Almost everybody needs to know this. The slope equation is y minus y over x minus x. Often you'll see it y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. It doesn't matter if you do y2 first or y1 first, just as long as you follow with the correct x. So if you do y2 minus y1, then you need to do x2 minus x1. If you do y1 minus y2, then you need to do x1 minus x2. Doesn't matter. So I don't ever write those 2's and those 1's because they just confuse me. So in order to find the y's, I need to plug 2 and 4 into my velocity function. The x's are 2 and 4 because the x is time and the velocity is that y value. So I'm going to do 4 minus 2 on the bottom, and I'm going to plug 4 into that velocity function. So x prime of 4 equals 0.75 times 4 squared plus 4, 0.75 times 16. At this point, I'm just doing basic arithmetic. 0.75 times 16. 12 plus 4 equals 16. So I'm going to put the 16 here because the 16 and the 4 match. That's an XY pair. Now I'm going to do the 2 into that function. The velocity at 2 is going to be 0.75 times 2 squared plus 4. 0.75 times 4 plus 4. 0.75 times 4 equals 3, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So 16 minus 7 is 9 divided by 2, which is 4.5. So average velocity is just rate of change. Now, I know that that was way over some of our heads. Some of us did not need to know that, but remember, Wednesday math nights are for everybody, so I wanted to make sure I included those high school people. Let's bring it down a little bit. A box shaped like a rectangular prism has a length of 8 centimeters, a width of 4 centimeters, and a height of 10. A teacher wants to fill the box with cubes that have a height of 0.5 centimeter. How many cubes can fit in the box? This is for everybody. Oh, I just made my phone go flying. This is for everybody. This is a 6th grade math problem, which means my K through 6 people need to know how to do this. My GK people, my Praxis core people, there are foundational skills for everybody in this problem. What do we know? The box is shaped like a rectangular prism. So I'm going to draw a rectangular prism. Okay. Anytime I have a geometry problem or a problem that warrants having a picture, I'm going to draw a picture. It has a length of 8, a width of 4, and a height of 10. Does it matter where you put those numbers? For a rectangular prism, it does not. For any other prism, it does, because it has different bases. But a rectangular prism is all rectangles, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to call this 4, this 8, and this 10. I call this 10 because that connects the 2 bases in my head. I'll explain it in a minute. A teacher wants to fill the box with cubes that have a height of 0.5 centimeter. How many cubes can fit in the box? This does not mean find the volume and divide by 2. One of the most common errors people do is they're going to do volume equals length times width times height. They're going to do 4 times 8 times 10 and then divide that by 2. And that is not how we're going to solve this problem. And I'm going to show you why. If the box is being filled with cubes, that means I'm putting cubes in this box, and the cubes have a height of 0.5 centimeter. So if I zoom in on those cubes, what do we know about the shape of a cube? This is important for everybody. What do we know about a cube? A cube is all squares. So if it has a height of 0.5 centimeter, what else does it have? A length and a width of 0.5 centimeter. Because it's a cube. A cube is all squares, which means all of the edges are going to be the same. So if it has a height of 0.5, then it has a width and it has a length of 0.5. And volume is cubic measurements. So when we find the volume, we're finding something centimeters cubed because it's filled with cubes. That's where we get that from. So if I'm putting a bunch of 0.5 centimeter cubes in here, then what does that mean? How many can fit along this 8 right here? 16. I can fit 16 0.5 centimeter cubes on that side because there's 2 halves in a hole. So there's going to be 16 of them on that side. How many can I stack on top? 8. And how many wide can I go? 20. Are you following? If you are not following, make sure you ask me in the comments. I'm more than happy to explain it again or draw another picture. If you are not following, let me know. So Now I can just multiply straight through length times width times height. So I have 8 times 16 times 20, and I get 2,560 cubes. Did you follow that? This kind of problem is so difficult to conceptualize when they give us the dimension of a half. Now, what if, let's go ahead and copy this and look at, what if they said it had a height of 2 centimeters? What if the cube had a height of 2 centimeters? What would we do then? We would half all of the measurements of the original box. So if I have a cube that's 2, 4, 6, 8, I would only be able to fit 4 here. I would only be able to fit 2 here, and I would only be able to fit 5 here. So 2 times 4 times 5 is 40. Massive difference. What if it wasn't a half for the cube? Good question. If it wasn't a half and it was just 1, then we would just do length times width times height. If it was just the box is being filled with cubes that have a height of 1 centimeter, well, then we're using our normal measurements, and we would just do 8 times 4 times 10. If it had a height of 2, I just demonstrated that. And the height is always going to match, like you're going to be able to divide or multiply all of the dimensions by that. Excellent question. I'm glad that you asked that. All right, let's keep going. If you have any more questions about this, please let me know. The equation below represents the cost C a customer must pay a plumber after H hours of work. Which of the following most appropriately describes what 30 represents in the equation? C equals 30H plus 75. The initial fee, or A, the initial fee charged by the plumber before any work is done. B, the total amount of money the customer must pay after the job is completed. C, the amount of money the customer must pay per hour. D, the amount of money the customer owes the plumber. Some of you are going to look at this problem and you're going to be able to answer it like this. And I love that because it shows that you understand linear functions. Some of you are looking at this and you're like, that's a lot of words, Amy. I don't understand it. We're going to walk through it. If you understand it, just hang on. Wait for the next problem. You're good. I will come back to that question about volume as soon as I'm done with this. So we have C equals 30H plus 75. Quick linear function review. Linear functions have a slope-intercept form. They have standard form too. We're not going to go over that. Slope-intercept form is the easiest, most common form that's used, and it's y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Y equals mx plus b. So if I graph that on a graph, very important that most of you understand basic linear functions. If you don't understand basic linear functions, you're going to have a hard time on a lot of the problems. So y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Slope is just how high and how far it's going. So how far up and how far over I'm going. So there's my line. And if we look at a real world problem, our y-intercept, which like I said is right here, is where our real world problem is starting. So when we look at a real world problem, most of the time the x-axis is going to be time and the y-axis is going to be whatever else it is, or hours or whatever. So I can't have negative amounts of hours, and I can't have negative money or negative, whatever else we're looking at. So if this is where we're starting in this specific problem, C is the cost. C is the Y. Like if we're looking at Y equals MX plus B, Y or C is the cost. So if we're starting at 75, what does that mean? That means that the customer has to pay $75 before any time happens. So at 0 time, which is right here, the customer is paying $75. That's the base fee to have this plumber come out. Then after each hour, that cost is increasing because the plumber is going to charge a certain amount per hour. Well, if it's per hour, we're looking at a multiplication problem, which is right here. So the 30 is going to be how much it's going to cost per hour. The 75 is going to be that base fee that the customer has to pay just to get the plumber to come to their house. And then the C is going to be that total cost after the plumber works a certain amount of time. So the initial fee charged by the plumber is going to be the 75. The total amount of money the customer must pay is going to be the C. The amount of money the customer must pay per hour is going to be the 30. And the amount of money the customer owes the plumber, well, that's B as well. Or that's the C. C and B, B and D are the same. And it's the C in the problem. That's so confusing. Letter B and letter D are the same, and it's the C that's in the problem. What they're asking for is, what does the 30 represent, which is the letter answer choice C. I shouldn't have used a C in the problem because that made that explanation very confusing. All right, going back to this problem really quickly because someone asked a question about it. You're just using the volume formula after finding those dimensions. Yes. Once you figure out how many cubes can go in the length and the width and the height, then you're just going to use that volume formula, which in a rectangular prism is length times width times height. In any other prism, it's area of the base times the height. So if I were to draw, I'm going to insert a page here really quickly because this is super confusing for so many of my clients. If we're looking at a triangular prism, we're not going to do length times width times height because it's not a rectangle. It's a triangular prism. So then my volume is going to be area of the base times the height. The base is these triangles because there's 2 of them. And then there's rectangles going around. Because that is the base, the height is actually going to be this measurement right here. The height is going to be this measurement right here. The height is what connects your 2 bases. And that's confusing because when we look at height of an object, we're usually looking at how tall it is. But prisms are often drawn with the bases like exposed. And so that's why the height is this measurement right here. For those of you who are studying for the GK, if you've gone on the state website, you know that there's this famous barn problem that looks something like this. Even if you're not studying for the GK, this is an excellent problem to use if you're studying for anything that's like 5 through 12. So if this is the barn, they ask you to find the volume of this barn. And so many people say that the height is this measurement right here, which in our brains would make sense because how tall is the barn? That's how tall the barn is. But do not think about height like that because the height for this is actually this measurement right here because it's what's connecting the 2 bases, which are your pentagons. That was way more of a rabbit trail than I needed to do, but I wanted to explain that to make sure you understood that. All right, next problem. Jocelyn and Matt purchased trees from the same nursery. Jocelyn spent $484 on 4 willow trees and 2 maple trees. Matt purchased 3 willow trees and 5 maple trees and spent $615. What is the cost of 1 maple tree? This right here is a system of equations. This right here is a system of equations. This is going to be best solved using substitution or elimination. So I'm just going to kind of sketch out what I know. I know that 4 willow trees, 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 2 maple trees is going to equal $484. And I know that 3 willow trees and 5 maple trees is going to equal $615. Now, how do I put that into an equation? Well, I'm going to do 4W, W for willow, plus 2 maple equals 484. And I'm going to do 3W plus 5 maple equals 615. Now, there are 1,000 different ways to solve systems of equations. I'm going to solve it using elimination. You don't have to solve it using elimination. And if you want to see it solved a different way, substitution, let me know in the comments. I'm going to solve it using elimination. So give me a chance to solve it, and then let me know if you want to see it a different way. Elimination means literally that I'm going to eliminate one of the variables by adding these up. But in order to eliminate one, I have to get one to be eliminatable. That's not even a word. So I'm going to eliminate the m's. I'm going to multiply this entire equation by 5. And I'm going to multiply this entire equation by -2. And you're like, why? You'll see, I promise. Because I'm multiplying the entire thing, not just one side, I'm good to go. I can do that. So this is going to equal 20W plus 10M equals, and I'm going to use my handy dandy calculator, Blue's Clues reference for those of you who didn't know that. 484 times 5 gives me 2,420. Now I'm going to multiply the bottom one by -2, and I get -6W minus 10M equals -615 times 2, 1,230. Now watch what happens when I add these together. It's like magic. 20 plus a -6 is going to be 14W. 10 minus 10 is 0. I just eliminated that. Why did I eliminate that? Because by using elimination, I can get this 2-variable equation down to 1. If I have a 2-variable equation, I can't solve it. But if I have a 1-variable equation, I can. 2,420 minus 1,230 equals 1,190. Now I can very easily divide both sides by 14. And I get W equals 85. Is that my answer? No. That's the cost of a willow tree. Now I need to figure out the cost of a maple tree. Well, if I know that 4 willow trees and 2 maple trees equals this, I can do 4 willow trees plus 2 maple trees equals 484. All I did was plug this value into my W right here. So 4 times 85 is 340 plus 2M equals 484. Now, I'm going to use basic algebra, basic simplification processes to simplify this. I'm going to subtract the 340 from both sides. Why did I do that first and not divide by 2? Because my goal is to get that 2 by itself. So I want to get rid of anything that's extra first until I just have that 2M by itself. So 484 minus 340 is 144. 2m equals 144. Divide both sides by 2, and m equals 72. So 1 maple tree equals b. For these kinds of problems, it's critical that you pay attention to what they're asking you. Sometimes they'll ask you for what's the cost of 1 maple tree and 2 willow trees, or what's the cost of 1 willow tree and 1 maple tree. In this case, they just wanted 1 maple tree. However, it's important that you know what they're asking for. All right, if you were with us last week, you know that we dealt with translating sentences into an expression in one of our problems. And I promised I would go over that today in depth. So we have 3 problems that are going to address translating an expression or translating a sentence into an algebraic expression. This is going to be critical that you understand how to take these words and translate them. So the vocabulary, even if you don't have to translate, the vocabulary we're about to go over is important for everybody to know. So even if this skill is not necessarily something you have to do, the vocabulary is important. Which of the following expressions matches the sentence below? The difference of 3 times a number and 7. The difference of 3 times a number and 7. So I know difference means subtract. 3 times a number. A number is going to be my variable. So 3 times a number, we'll just call that number n, and 7. Well, and 7 could mean plus 7, not plus 4, plus 7. However, when we go back to the beginning of this problem, we remember that we're looking for the difference of 2 things. The difference of this and this. So we're subtracting these 2 things. But am I doing 3n minus 7, or am I doing 7 minus 3n? Well, this is when I like to put real numbers in here. So what if it was the difference of 12 and 4? I would do 12 minus 4. The difference of 12 and 4 would be 12 minus 4. So the difference of a number of 3 times a number and 7 is going to be 3n minus 7, or 3x minus 7, which is a. All right, let's look at another one. 5 more than the product of 4 and a number. This is one where it's important that the order matters. Because when I look at my answer choices, I see the commutative property happening. 5 plus 4n and 4n plus 5 are the same thing. They give us the same sum. 5n plus 4 and 4 plus 5n give us the same sum. But they did that on purpose because they want you to pay attention to the order that is going to be important. 5 more than the product of 5 more than means add. The product of means multiply. 4 and a number. 4 times a number. Now, is it going to be 5 plus that, or is it going to be that plus 5? Well, with the addition, it's kind of hard to think about. So let's look at a subtraction example and come back to this one. 5 less than the product of 4 and a number. So this one is the exact same problem as this one, except it's less than now. 5 less than the product of, which means multiply, 4 and a number. So when we look at this, what does less than mean? Less than means subtract, but let's think about this in real numbers. What is 5 less than 12? What is 5 less than 12? If you said 7, you are correct. 5 less than 12 is 7. 5 smaller than 12 is 7. How did you solve that? You didn't do 5 minus 12. You did 12 minus 5. When you see less than or more than written like this, it means something minus that item or something plus that item. So 5 less than something means something minus 5. What is that something? All of that. 5 less than all of this. The product of means multiply 4 and a number. 4n minus 5. So knowing that, what is the answer to this one? 5 more than means something plus 5. So in this case, we have 4n plus 5. Now, do I think that when you actually take your test, they would give you commutative property as answer choices for the addition one? No, because you would get the same sum. However, A and B will not result in the same answer because subtraction is not commutative. So, like I said, for this one, I made up these answer choices, and you would likely not have answer choices that are so close. But you best believe for subtraction, you would. All right, let's keep going. Problem number 7. The Venn diagram below represents sets of numbers. Circle A represents integers 3 through 10 inclusive. Circle B represents integers 7 through 12 inclusive. How many integers are represented in the shaded region? All right, so circle A represents 3 through 10 inclusive. All inclusive means it includes the 3 and the 10. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in A. Circle B represents 7 through 12. So we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, what do we know about Venn diagrams? We know that the parts that are shared go in the gray region because that is where the two circles share a spot. So I'm going to look for what is shared. The 7, the 8, the 9, and the 10 are shared. The 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the 11 and 12 are not shared. So what that would look like is the 7, 8, 9, and 10 would actually not be in those circles. They would be in the middle. 7, 8, 9, and 10. So how many are in the shaded region? There are 4 in the shaded region. Are we good? All right. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. And if there is something that I'm not covering tonight that you want to see, please let me know in the comments. If there is something that I have not gone over tonight that you want to see me solve, let me know in the comments. All right. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to the expression shown below if x and y are not equal to 0? First of all, why can x and y not be equal to 0? Why can x and y not be equal to 0? Because I cannot divide by 0. So I can't do 4 divided by 0. It's undefined. It's not possible. If you plug in 5 divided by 0, 4 divided by 0, anything divided by 0 into your calculator, you're going to get an error message. How many of you have ever asked Siri what 0 divided by 0 is? If you have not done it yet, you totally should, because it's really funny. Okay, that's all. That's my soapbox. Moving on. All right, so as long as x and y are not 0, which of the following expressions is equivalent to this? Well, what do we know about adding fractions or adding rational expressions? If we are adding rational expressions, which is just fractions, I see your question, and I'll get back to it. We have to have common denominators. In order to solve this, we have to have common denominators. How do I get common denominators? I have to multiply by a value of 1. So if I have 4 over 3x plus 3 over 2y, I have to find the least common multiple between my denominators. Well, in this case, I'm just going to multiply each one by what it's missing. So the 3x, I'm going to multiply by 2y, and the 2y, I'm going to multiply by 3x. But I'm not just going to multiply it by 2y and 3x. I'm going to multiply it by 2y divided by 2y and 3x divided by 3x. Why can't I just multiply it by 2y and 3x? Because then I'm changing the entire value of this function. But if I multiply it by 2y divided by 2y, this really just equals 1. And anything times 1 is itself. 5 times 1 is 5. 7 times 1 is 7. 4 divided by 3x times 1 is 4 divided by 3x. And this is equal to 1. So I'm not changing the inherent value of this expression. I'm just making it so that I can add these two things together. 4 times 2y is 8y. 3x times 2y is 6xy. 3 times 3x is 9x. 3x times 2y is 6xy. And I don't know what just happened, so I'm just going to reconnect. Give me 1 second. Oh, I apologize about that. Silly iPad. All right, we should be good. It's connecting. So now that I have 8y plus 9x divided by 6xy, now I can just squish the tops together and I get 8y plus 9x divided by 6xy. Why can I not add the 8y and the 9x? Why can I not add these two things together? Because they don't have like terms. I can only add things that are alike. So if it was 8y plus 9y, then I would have 17 y's. But it's 8y and 9x, and x's are not the same as y's. So that's as far as I can go, which is letter C. All right, I see someone asked a question, percent question involving Venn diagrams. Is that something that you want me to go over like in the future, or is that something that you want me to address with this problem right now? Let me know in the comments, and I'm going to keep going, but I'll come back to it if that's what you want. But let me know if you want me to like explain that with this problem, or if you want me to build that for next week. All right. What is the radius of the circle? Actually, we're going to do this one first. At a store, the retail price of a dollhouse is $135, and the retail price of a doll is $85. Today, the store is offering a 30% discount on a doll when a dollhouse is purchased at the retail price. What is the total cost of a doll and dollhouse at this promotional price? So we need to go ahead and look at what information we have. So we've been given the price of a dollhouse, the price of a doll, and the fact that we are looking at a 30% discount on the doll when the dollhouse is purchased at full price. So I'm purchasing a dollhouse plus a sale doll. When I'm solving problems, I'm not kidding you, I will write this out just like this because I don't want to lose track of the work that I'm doing. Some of these problems, y'all, have so many steps and it's so easy to lose track of what you're trying to do. So it's critical that you come up with a plan of action, even if it's as simple as this. So if I'm buying a full price dollhouse, I'm looking at $135. Then I'm looking for a sale doll. So I'm looking at $85 times the promotional price. But here's where people mess up. They multiply this by 30% and they call it a day. But this is the discount. That's not what you're paying. So you have two options. You can either multiply it by the 30% and then subtract, or you can just figure out what you're paying. So let me show you two different ways. If I do $85 times 0.30, I get $25.50. That is the discount. Now I'm going to take the 85 and subtract the discount to get 85 minus 25.5, 59.5, which is the sale price. Or I can do 85 times the percent that I'm paying. So if it's a 30% discount, what percent am I paying? 70%, because there's only 100% in one whole. What is 85 times 0.7? 59.5. We're eliminating one step by doing that. So either way, I have 135 plus 59.5, and that equals 194.5, which is C. All right, I see your question. You said if I have one that can be addressed. I do, I just would have to dig for it, unfortunately. So I will make sure that I have one that involves like percents and Venn diagrams next week. That's an excellent thing for us to go over because it really spans everybody. So I'll hit probability and I will make sure that I hit a percent problem next week because this one's going to be really, there's not a whole lot to it because it's just like 5 or 6 numbers. So adding a percent into that is going to be kind of tricky. So we will definitely go over that next week, and that really hits a lot of different assessments as well. Excellent question. All right. This is one last problem for my middle school and really my high school people, my Praxis people. Praxis loves circles, but my high school people, you got to know how to do the radius of a circle. So let's go ahead and look at this circle equation below. If you are not a middle school or a high school person, don't leave yet because Dr. A has a special code for you for our upcoming boot camps. So you're not going to want to leave. All right. X squared plus y squared plus 7y equals 10x plus 3y plus 3y minus 13. And we're looking for the radius of this circle. Now, we know that the equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where r is your radius and HK is your center. This looks nothing like that. So we have to put it into that standard form. How do I put it into standard form when I have other x's and y's? I have to complete the square. So I'm going to get all my x's together. So I'm going to subtract 10x from both sides, plus y squared, plus 7y minus 3y is plus 4y, equals, and then I'm going to leave my constant on the side. Now I can complete the square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a blank to each of my x's and my y's. So I'm going to do x squared, switch my pen color back, x squared minus 10x plus blank, plus y squared plus 4y plus blank equals negative 13 plus blank plus blank. Why did I put two blanks over there? Because if I add something to this side, I have to add the same thing to this side. If I add something to this side, I have to add the same thing to this side. Well, what's going to go in those blanks? Negative b divided by 2a. So I'm going to do, no, not negative b divided by 2a. I'm sorry, that was totally wrong. B divided by 2 squared. So I'm going to do negative 10 divided by 2 squared, which is 5 squared, which is 25. And I'm going to put it on both sides. Then I'm going to do the same thing here. 4 divided by 2 squared. 2 squared equals 4. Now I've created perfect square trinomials. So if I factor this and I factor this, I get a perfect square trinomial, which is the goal. So really, I can just know that I'm going to do x minus 5 squared. The 5 comes from there. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Plus y plus 2 squared. The 2 comes from there. Equals negative 13 plus 29. 29 minus 13 equals 16. And there's our radius squared. But it asked for the radius, not the radius squared. Radius is going to be the square root of that value, which is 4. All right. I see that we are going to add probability for next week. We're going to do percent questions involving Venn diagrams. The rest of you, if there's anything that you want to see me go over next week, please let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to do that. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. A for the closeout and to give you guys a special code. And I look forward to seeing you next week. All right, Dr. A.
All right, so
yours.
wasn't that an amazing session? Now, I know, depending on what exam you have to take, you're like, man, that was great, but she didn't address everything I needed. She focused on all different questions, and I just need elementary, or I just need middle school, I just need high school. Don't worry. Since you're still with us, I've got a special surprise for you. If you use the coupon code, all capital letters, SINK35, that's SINK 35, that will take off 35% off any of our prep courses on our website at the Learning Liaisons. Doesn't have to just be math. It could be anything that you need that we offer. And this is going to be an ongoing deal for you guys who attend these live sessions, because these are great. I'm sure Amy opened your eyes to some new concepts, some new ways to tackle problems, building that confidence. But this is just a smidget of your exam, the concepts on your test. So if you want the comprehensive view with the practice with Amy, with the practice test, with the lessons and the content review, we've got your back on our video boot camps, which all of them feature Amy Sink, your math specialist. So if you want to take advantage of that, the code is SINK35. You can use that at checkout on the learningliaisons.com website. And all that information is on our website as well. And on the bottom of the screen in this video. So we are here to help you. Once again, always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. Thank you for joining us again today, and hopefully we'll see you next week too. Talk to you soon.